Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Here we are with Jacen McCready,
Yes, sir.
and we have known each other for like 6 months, but we just met a couple months, not even
1 month.
a month ago,
In Ecuador.
in the jungle of Ecuador where we did ayahuasca together.
Yeah.
So the podcast is called The Conscious Man. So the first question I always ask is, in your opinion, what is a conscious man?
What is a conscious man? That can mean a lot of things. To me, a conscious man is simply a man who is fully present, a man who is fully aware of who he is, a man who does not follow a lot of societal norms. A conscious man is a man who's in control of his life.
I like that.
I would say that, yeah.
Yeah, a man who doesn't follow societal norms, which has been me my whole fucking life.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like ever since the time I was in like third grade, and I just could not do the school thing.
No, bless me. I was homeschooled. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mom pulled us out of the public school when we were grade 1, whatever age that was.
Okay.
And then we did the home thing because exactly that. She said, I'm not doing this.
Did you like it at the time?
Honestly, I didn't really know what to compare it to. Like I didn't have friends who were in the high school and like the systems. So it was enjoyable for me. There was no definitive wake up time. I kind of got to choose when and where I was doing my studies. I had the opportunity to go to work when I was 13 years old and do my school in the evening, which was a blessing all on its own.
Okay.
So I've been on the grind for solid 16, 18 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, the whole school system just,
It's a mess.
it's a fucking mess. And
It's
I
a
knew
mess.
it from a very, very young age. So you said a man who doesn't follow societal norms, and that's been me my whole fucking life. Obviously that's like maybe where like someone who's different can start, and that maybe turns a man into a seeker, which eventually ends hopefully with him becoming a conscious man.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But yeah, I love what you said. So before we get too into like everything, tell us a little bit about your story, where you're from, what your life's been like, what you do now.
Yeah, so I'm from Canada, first of all. I grew up in a family, 4 other siblings. I have a twin brother. It was a very...
Does your twin brother look like you?
We're fraternal twins.
Okay. So you don't look alike.
He doesn't have as much hair as me. He's losing
Okay.
a lot of his hair for whatever reason.
Okay.
He's got a bigger head, but we look the same otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, where I came from. So grew up in Canada, grew up on a farm, had a very supportive and loving childhood. It was definitely not a high income, like uprising in that sense.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, homeschooled from a very young age, wasn't filled with all of the bullshit that so many of my other...
Were you vaccinated as a kid?
Fuck no.
You weren't vaccinated either.
I've never had a single vaccination my
Okay.
entire life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, bless. Yeah, started out in the trades. I was a carpenter for many years. Tried a whole handful of things. I got into the film industry. I was into cars for a while. But yeah, getting into the film industry was the one that really cracked me out and like got me out of my shell, I would say.
Okay.
It really provided me with more of like how do I say this? An experience to experience more of life, right? Like it provided opportunity and forced me to get out of my shell. Growing up a very introverted, like
Sure.
family, mama's boy kind of
Okay.
uprising. Yeah, that was the start of it all. And then, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I really went down the path of gaining consciousness and getting
Spiritual,
out there.
becoming spiritual.
Spiritual path, we'll call
Okay.
it that. Started off like most with a lot of psychedelic drugs, and
Yeah.
that was what cracked me out in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, got into my psychedelic stage, experienced a lot of life that was otherworldly, let's just say.
Sure.
And Yeah, man, there's been a lot. There's been a lot that's gone through.
What set you on that spiritual path? Would you say, was it something hard that happened in your life, or was it just friends? Or
Honestly, it was a partner that I had at the time. I had
Okay.
never meditated. I'd never heard of meditation, to be quite honest. And one day she was just like, "Oh, we're gonna do this guided meditation before we go to bed." I'm like, "Okay, let's do this, whatever that is." She went down pretty hard. She was doing it quite often, and then I just kind of, through association, was getting into it. And it wasn't till maybe 2 or 3 years after that first experience, that I really opened up to it, and I really realized, like, whoa, there's a lot more to life than just going through life, essentially. Being that conscious man, actually being aware and present with your life.
okay.
Yeah.
So what about God? What role has he played in your life?
Not a lot, to be completely honest.
Okay.
But there was no religion in my family. I didn't even really hear the word God until a few years ago.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've heard the word God, but it's not like it was.
It's not something that was present
It
in
was.
your life.
It was. Yeah, exactly. It was nothing that was present in my life, and still to this day, I do. Full transparency, I do have a hard time connecting to what is God.
Okay.
For me, it's just about a higher self, right? Like, God kind of runs through me and is a higher intelligence.
Sure.
I'll say,
Sure.
in a sense.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously, we talked about this a little bit, but you are in the men's group with me. We went to Ecuador to do ayahuasca, which is also your first time doing it, which we'll talk about that. But pretty much that whole group of guys, I have some spiritual people in my life, but the fellowship and that whole men's group has been like what I've considered to be some of the most spiritual men I've ever met.
For sure. And that was the intro to real spirituality amongst men. Before it was kind of just my partner who was doing it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get spiritual with you, whatever. Which
is always interesting, right? It seems like it usually is women that introduce spirituality to us. For me, it was Shauna. But in the very beginning, it was like, yeah, okay, all this woo-woo spirituality,
shit, yeah.
like you don't really buy into it until
it means something to you.
Until it has some application in your life where, it changes something. And for me, that was, I'd kind of heard her talking about, really, she kind of started me off with like the law of manifestation. That was, I think, what pulled me into spirituality, because I was super focused on getting rich. Right? Interesting. And so that kind of pulled me in to manifesting, like, okay, I can manifest money. Let's fucking do this. Let's go. And then from that point, I ended up divorcing my wife, and that sent me down the spiritual path of like really starting to become a seeker of something more. Because that was like something that was really, really hard for me. And at that point in my life, the law of manifestation and spirituality, started to kind of have a deeper meaning. And so, yeah, it's interesting how it, at least from what I've seen, it usually is like women. And they, you talk to like spiritual people and they say that women are leading consciousness, the expansion of consciousness. Like Eisen talks about that all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's just, without painting a picture on women versus men, it's just the natural nature of a woman, right? Like, they're more expressive, they're more creative, they're more allowing, where as a man, at least for myself, I'm like we're going to get shit done. It's A or B, it's black or white. These are the steps. Take the steps, get it done.
It does kind of seem like we are more the roots and they are more the tree, right? In that, like, we're a little bit more, it seems to me, connected to the 3D, and they're maybe a little bit more connected to like the heavens, and then we balance each other out in that way because they make us seek for something higher than us, and then also we help keep them grounded in this game that we're playing.
The women always take off.
And it's a good thing they're so good looking.
It makes it easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring it up with with a divorce and like that being the catalyst, because I went through a similar relationship where it was like extremely traumatic for both of us.
Okay.
And it was the final separation of that, which actually got me to join the men's group in the first place, which was 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
And that's when stuff really started to get serious. That's when I saw, brotherhood and like, what does it mean to be an actual man and a real conscious being?
Yeah.
Instead of, it took it from like the woo-woo spiritual shit to, okay, men are doing this. This is serious. This is real life here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was this a different person than the one that you just ended things with recently? Okay.
Yes. So this was a woman. It was a classic COVID. Like we got together in the very beginning of COVID.
Okay.
The world shut down, and we're like, okay, well, let's just freaking stay together because what the hell else we're
Yeah.
gonna do?
Everything was so distorted at the time.
Yeah.
It's like you didn't know what was up and
those
down.
programs were like, okay, there's no one else out here. We can't go out and meet other people, so we may as well just be together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kicked it off. Funny thing, actually, it was a woman who was also dating the leader of the men's group at the time. So,
Okay.
So it was when we finally ended things for good. I mean, during the relationship, she had been like most relationships, kind of broke up and came back together.
Huh.
And during one of the off seasons, let's call it, she was seeing someone else, which was totally okay. And we came back together, and it was, she had respect for this man, and she was sharing like his learnings and his men's group and all this, and she really wanted me to join and be a part of the brotherhood. And at the time, I'm like, whatever, I don't need that shit. And it wasn't until we finally ended things, I looked over and I said, you know what? I need a brotherhood. I need more men in my life. And I reached out to him, and he opened me with, wide open arms.
Cool.
Even though there could have been, some distortion there, being the man who was in and out, and he was in,
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story.
We got some history there.
Cool. Interesting the way that people can come together, though.
Yeah.
Huh.
Fast forward 3 years. And
So, this is your third time being in the men's group that is the fellowship, then? This is your third year doing it?
The third container. So we've got the 12-month container right now. There was a 12-month container before, and then it was a 4-month, I believe, container before. So
cool.
Over the course of 3 years.
Cool. Okay. All right. So let's talk about Ecuador.
The jungle.
I talked about my experience a little bit on the first episode I did here. Kind of told a little bit how it was my first experience, obviously, just like it was for you. I had heard all this shit about ayahuasca and how it was this master plant. And
it'll heal you.
Yeah. And then my experience was like,
I'm on drugs.
This is it? This is what everyone has been talking about? Why are they so identified with this? Is this just like something that they're using as some sort of like spiritual identity? It was pretty disappointing for me. Like, and I was pretty open and honest about that on the podcast. I know while we were there, you had a similar experience, but you also mentioned that after you had had some stuff come up from it as well. So
a lot changed after that. And whether that was the medicine or not, I still don't fully know.
Okay.
But yeah, I think similar to your experience, like we talked there, I had a hard time. I had a hard time experiencing the medicine for what it really was, or for at least for what everyone said that it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I have had my fun with a lot of psychedelics in
Same.
the past, and I was on the floor. I'm on drugs. That's what I felt. Yeah, we've got the shamans and they're singing on us and they're chanting and they're doing their work. But for me, my personal in the moment experience was nothing more than could have been a mushroom experience or ketamine or,
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt like I was on 5 grams of mushrooms.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. And because I did have high expectations, I think part of it was I have a hard time surrendering. That's why I think women usually have a really good experience with it. They're a little bit better at surrendering. And I think if you have a hard time surrendering, you have a hard time getting into the medicine.
Yeah.
Which is also, I think, why ketamine has been so powerful for me, because there's no surrendering with ketamine, bro. It's kicking your ass. It's taking you whether you want to go or not. Yeah. And so Yeah, it's interesting because, you and I kind of came together in the jungle and we kind of talked about our disappointment with it. I do think coming out of that, like the week following, coming back into the Matrix was weird for me.
But I think that's just the experience that we had in the jungle. Like we were off grid. We were in the jungle. We're sleeping on cots for 8 days.
I think that was I felt like that was a big part of it.
Exactly. We had that experience. Then we came back, and it's like, whoa, reality, Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Than our experience in the jungle, medicine or not.
Right. And I think, being disconnected from your phone, all the people that you know, that in and of itself was pretty uncomfortable, but also then like not wearing shoes the whole time, being connected to the earth. There was so much medicine in that men's retreat that I was definitely satisfied with the experience. Despite feeling like the medicine was not anything like I expected it to be. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just being with men, that was probably the biggest medicine for me, was just being with men that are focused on creating their lives.
Had you ever done a retreat like that before with just men?
I had done my own men's retreat, but never anything like in the middle of the jungle, like what
fully
we did.
Disconnected.
Just like going up to a cabin. I've done retreats like that.
Still connected to life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I started kind of like jumping into the men's work. It hasn't even been a year yet since I started my men's group, and I did my first men's retreat. That was June of last year. I did my first men's retreat, and then a month after that, I started my own men's group, and it's been fucking amazing. But it's also been this like whole process over the past like 3 years that has brought me to this point, because if you had met me 3 years ago, bro, I was like so fucking closed off, very like introverted. And I feel like I've done a lot of work with a lot of help from some psychedelics. Those have really like opened me up in a huge way. Not that they do the work, but they show you where you can be happier if you can do the work on yourself. And so I've really focused on, opening up, because, this men's work for me has really felt like a call that I've resisted in a lot of ways, because I was so introverted, because I felt like I was antisocial, because I felt like I had social anxiety, didn't really want to do any of the social stuff, didn't enjoy parties where I didn't know everyone. But I kind of felt like pushed towards it in a way that I was like, I don't want to do this, because I had a really good job. I have a great business that's running really well, that doesn't require me to be there 8 hours a day. And now all of a sudden, like the universe is like pushing me a little bit out of this so that I can focus on this other thing that feels very uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, it really took me like 2 years of work to get to the point where I felt like I was ready to start my own group, to start working with men, to start opening up more, to start, building a little bit of a following on social media. And it's been an interesting journey for me.
Yeah, well, you're a brave man for even beginning this, because a lot of guys will go through years and years and years of the work. And, it's going through steps almost.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just kind of doing the work, but maybe not fully committing to it. Whereas I see you did the work, you saw the importance of it, and you jumped right in.
Yeah. And it's been interesting because it's like, to be honest with you, I don't feel like I had a choice. I feel like I have always kind of felt like I have somewhat of an important mission and an important role to play in the collective evolution that we're experiencing right now, and the collective awakening. And so I really did honestly just feel very pushed. Like if I look at the way I handled everything, I was very resistant to walking this path. And I almost feel like I didn't have a choice in a lot of ways. And now I'm super grateful for it. I really feel like I've grown so much, and I've been kind of just like forced into a corner by the universe in a way that I had to follow my heart over my mind, because that was a big thing for me. And I know that's still a big thing for a lot of men, but I also feel like that's part of what I'm supposed to help men do, is connect to their hearts. You know, like I've got that on my Instagram profile. It's like
Yeah.
I help men connect to their parts, connect to their hearts, align with their purpose, and find more fulfillment in their lives. And that's been something, quite honestly, I feel like the universe has forced me into.
Just put you on the edge and kicked you in the back.
Yeah, it's kicked
on
me
it,
in the
let's go.
dick until I was like, okay, I'm
man,
listening.
let's
I'll
go.
fucking go. It's got me at gunpoint.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I'm super grateful for it now because like that whole process of kind of quieting my mind, focusing more on my heart has brought so much good into my life. Like the relationships that I have.
And simply being of service,
Yeah.
right? Like what's greater than being of service to others? What makes you feel the best? Helping
Yeah,
others.
absolutely. Absolutely. And like helping people from a place of like understanding where they're at. You know, like me before, I was very, very focused on chasing money, on chasing fame, and, you know, chasing all the
Status.
dopamine. Yeah, status. Absolutely. Like just chasing all the dopamine hits that we know never really fill us up, you know? And I finally got to the point where I had all the shit that I thought, like, you know, it was like at 30 years old, I hit these milestones of like having all the shit and having a big, nice house and having the toys and having a great business that I didn't have to work at all the time. And then I was like,
You never felt complete.
this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. Fuck. If this is it, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
And so that kind of started this whole process of like seeking to be like, okay, I have to find something that brings me more fulfillment.
And do you think that it was necessary to go through all of that to experience, to realize that it wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it is it,
Absolutely.
but it doesn't have the impact that you thought you would feel from it.
I think Jim Carrey says this. He says, I wish everyone could get famous and rich so that they could understand it's not the answer.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that I could have got to this point
If you
without
hadn't have-
chasing that shit first, feeling that it wasn't the answer that was going to fulfill my soul. Yeah, I feel like that was absolutely a very important part of the process.
It's awesome that you hit that at such a young age, because some guys or women too, like they'll chase that their entire lives. Thinking that that's
you look
the goal.
at most guys and it's like they have I think that's kind of like a midlife crisis, right? Is realizing
hit
all
it.
the shit that you're chasing isn't making you
Yeah.
happy.
There you go.
And most guys,
40,
that's
50
40,
years
50
in.
years old, right? So yeah, I do feel super fucking lucky that I hit that at 30. And it has been a difficult process for me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a very difficult process, but it's cracked me open in a way that couldn't have happened any other way without some pain, some suffering, some real deep soul searching. And so I wouldn't change it. You know, I wouldn't change it. And it's interesting because, you know, we talk about that quote by Jim Carrey, and so many people are like so against like chasing money, chasing status. And I understand why they are, but I think the big piece that they miss is that it is a necessary step in the process for so many men, that they're not really going to get to where they need to go until they know what they need to know. You know?
Yeah.
For me, it was an absolutely necessary part of the process.
Brother Seth said it well.
Yeah.
Do what you got to
Yeah.
do.
Do what you got to do to know what you got to know.
Yeah.
And God will take you through that process, whether you want to do it or not, or whether you go kicking and screaming, kind of like I did,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. So do you feel like you've got it all now in terms of like business life outside of that?
Do I have it all?
Like, are you content? Because I know for myself, I'm still chasing.
I'm still in that process.
Still
I
in the
would
grind
say
mode,
I'm
right?
still very much in that process. I feel like I'm coming to the end of my dark night of the soul, and I'm excited for that. But if I'm being honest, I still feel a
Do
big
better.
part of me that wants more in a lot of ways. Like I can see that I'm on the right path, and I can see that what I've gone through has been necessary, but I still am in a big resistance part of it where there's still a lot that I need to let go of before, you know, I feel like I've done a lot of the inner work. But I also feel like there's a lot of that I'm still patiently waiting for to manifest in my external world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. For me, it's like the grind doesn't ever have to stop, right?
Right.
But the goalpost can shift.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just flashy ego trucks, cars, house, whatever it is, now you can focus on attaining that same level of wealth or greater, but it's for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
You know, here we're going to now use that. We're going to use that
Yes.
for good instead
Yeah.
of just in our own personal status.
Right. And what's your intention behind it? Because my intention behind why I would like to be wealthy has completely shifted. But I'm also not the guy that's like, don't chase money. You know, chase money for the right reasons. Right. I still think money is a really fun part of this game.
Money runs the world.
Money runs,
We're
runs
not
the
getting
world.
away
It still
from it.
does.
If you don't chase money to some degree, then you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of guys are like money's evil. And it's like, well, no.
That's what I was taught when I was.
It's what's your intention behind it? Like, are you chasing money to fill a part of your soul that is never going to be filled by money? Or are you seeing this game for what it really is and realizing that money is a part of this game and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be wealthy as long as you're just paying attention to your intentions behind it?
Yeah.
You know, because it is a part of this game. And like you look at like spiritual people, right? And I think a lot of spiritual people are a little bit like too disconnected from the game. Where it's like, I think it's valuable to be able to zoom out and see things as they really are and see how everything's connected and everything's one. But I think it's also valuable, especially as a man, to be able to zoom back in and realize that you are playing a game and you're not meant to be disconnected from this game all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for myself, my experience of life leading up to this point has been money hasn't been my focus.
Yeah.
I've always been a very grounded, present, a little bit of a here, there kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very confident in myself, but also at the same time, not having the goals that I probably should have had earlier on, and not focusing on more of the 3D, like get your shit in order, kind of uprising. I had too much time to have fun. Let's just say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, and it's an interesting way to look at it too, because it depends on like what type of view you're looking at it from, right? Because I didn't have enough fun as a kid, right? And it turned me into this man that was super focused on, I think, the wrong things. I wish I had had more fun as a kid and like maybe paid a price a little bit to be like maybe moved a little slower when I was 20 to 30 years old and not been ultra focused on just getting rich and starting a business. And because while I think everything is perfect, there's a part of me that feels like I wasted a lot of time chasing things that weren't important and maybe taking life too seriously and not playing enough. You know, and it's like now I'm in my 30s and I'm like having like reprogram my mind around play and joy and things that I think really matter.
Yeah, this is interesting because I'm quite the opposite.
Yeah.
I had all that play, I had all that fun in my 20s, and now I'm 30 and I'm getting to a point where I'm like, wait a minute. Like I probably should have put more attention into this when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a balance. It kind of shows, right? There's a balance of like taking life and playing the game that you're in and taking it somewhat seriously, but also not taking it too seriously where you are allowing yourself to play and like fully enjoy stuff while being present and not too focused on I have to do this and I should do this, right?
Whichever route we both took, we're both here.
We're both here. We're both here now, and everything's perfect.
Talking about being conscious. So
yeah.
However we got here, it doesn't really matter. It's where we're going.
So tell me about now the journey that you're currently on.
All right. Well, for the first time in my life, I'm traveling. I get to experience what traveling is like.
You spent most of your life in Vancouver.
All of my life.
Okay.
In Vancouver. Yeah, working being at home. Never really traveled, did much. In the last 6 months, I attended my first retreat, men's retreat in Costa Rica with Jacen as well.
Yeah.
And that's really what kicked it off for me. When I went down there, I had such a strong need to almost like support family, and I had this desire to almost like carry the family along as I was expanding and becoming more conscious. And I realized pretty quick that you can't.
It's not how it works.
It's not how it works. You got to build yourself first, and you lead by example. So the big thing that I released and was focusing on letting go there was just the simple fact of, trying to be that support system for the family, specifically my twin brother. I felt a lot of, my expansion was doing so much for me, but maybe he was a little stuck in his ways and he wasn't experiencing the same expansion that I was going through. So what I had to release was, I'm on my path. I'm doing what I'm doing for me so that I can show up better for them. And that was what kicked it off. Did a solid 3-week road trip through Costa Rica. I came home. And after 3 weeks back at home, I realized I got to get the hell out of here. I got to continue this path, right?
And that was just what, last fall?
That was just September last year.
Okay.
So September was Costa Rica. Came back home, decided to move to Mexico. So I took, it was going to be a winter thing.
Yeah,
I planned to be down there for about 5 to 6 months. After 2.5 months, I got, quite honestly, homesick. And I was feeling like I was missing the love, the support, the comforts of everything that was at home. So I went back home. And pretty quickly I realized what I was trying to achieve when I first left.
Okay.
And then I decided, you know what, I need to continue this again. And I went out again. I went right back to Mexico where I was. And
what were you doing down in Mexico? Do you have a job where you work remotely?
So I started day trading about a year ago. And that's kind of been my thing. I'm definitely not a professional by any means, but it's enough to pay some bills at this point.
Cool. Okay.
Living cheap in Mexico, you don't need clothes or cars or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of the kickoff of like a full transformation for myself. I really realized at that point that there was so much programming and so much pattern that I was just stuck with, and a lot that wasn't serving me fully.
Okay.
So being out there in Mexico was an attempt to rewrite my story.
Cool.
To really, really make something more for myself.
Okay.
Yeah. And now here we are.
And now you've got your van. You're driving around. You're living out of your van, which I think is fucking awesome, dude. Like
30 years old, living out of a van. Let's go.
It's fucking amazing. I love it because there's like so many days I feel
you mentioned this,
weighted down by all the shit. Mm-hmm. There's so many. I'm just like, I would love to just sell everything, buy a van, and just travel until
our stuff weighs us down.
It really does.
It weighs us down.
It really does.
Anchors us to where we are, and it kind of like prevents expansion in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the past 6 months has just been like release, let go, get rid of that, like get out, move, just let it all go. And now here I am, 30 years old. I'm at a point where I'm on my own. I'm in a van. I'm making money from my laptop. And I literally have the entire world in front of me.
Yeah. Endless possibilities.
Endless.
What's some of the biggest lessons you've pulled from being that free?
Discipline. Discipline is on you.
Yeah.
No one's going to tell you what to do. No one's going to tell you to get the hell out of bed. Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough. And the biggest, so here it is. I talked about this yesterday on my Instagram, actually. The biggest thing that I experienced from being so free and being away from everyone and being outside of all that comfort was you're with yourself. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you strip away the love from family and the love from your family and friends, the love from your dogs, like lots of dogs back in my parents' house.
Yeah.
As soon as you strip away all of that, you're probably going to feel a lot of discomfort and pain within. Maybe it'll feel like homesick. That's what I thought it was at first, until I kept going back to home and realizing, this wasn't it. What it really was is it's all the discomfort and the pain.
Which you're probably using the external things in your normal life to fill those voids when they can ultimately never patch those holes.
Yes. So exactly where I was going with that. You start to realize that everything in your life is probably patching and just Band-Aid fixing all of this pain and suffering that you might be experiencing within. And all of a sudden you're on your own, you're in a van, and you have the entire world in front of you. You think you're free, everything's great. But now you're sitting with yourself. And now you see everything.
And there's no escape. There's no of those normal patches that you can use to fill those holes, because that's interesting.
It's potent shit.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's been the big one for me, is realizing that, the discomfort that is within your body it's in you, and there's no one that's going to come and take care of you. It's up to you to take care of yourself.
Okay.
It's up to you to really emotionally.
I've never thought about that, because I grew up here. I was born in California, but we moved here when I was 4 years old, and I live in the same city that I've lived in since I was 4 years old. Wow. Like my family grew up there. I ended up buying a house there, and so people don't talk about it a lot, but location holds so much energy. Mm-hmm. So with you driving around and going to all these different places, it's like you're probably seeing so many different perspectives of yourself, that there's probably so much shit that comes up that most people don't get the chance to experience when they're just staying in their same life. Because again, you're using all these external things to, validate your existence, Mm-hmm. So interesting, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like I've lived so many different lifetimes just in the last 6 months, because Costa Rica was an entire life. Like, I moved to Mexico. I was there for 5 months. I had an apartment. I had a motorcycle, and that was my life for 5 months. And then on the flip of a dime, I left that. Yeah. And I came back and I built the van, and now I'm in a van road tripping. And it's like there's so many different versions of myself, and in each one I was chasing something. Yeah. Like, I would come back home, realize, no, this ain't it. I go somewhere else. Think it's good for a few minutes. You have that initial euphoria phase of like traveling almost. Yeah. Or like going on vacation. And you realize, wait a minute, I'm still not comfortable here. There's still something missing. And then I'd move again. And now I'm on the road and I'm in Utah, and I'm like, wait a minute. What? Where is this fucking discomfort? Where is this coming from? And you realize that it's all probably a lack of love for myself. Like that's one thing that really has been uncovered in the last couple of weeks for me, is like, how much do I love myself? How much do I trust myself? And when I'm feeling like I do not trust myself, where do I immediately seek outside to try and fill those voids?
Yeah, because you can't seek the same things when you're going to different places all the time, and you take yourself everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm. You can't run from yourself.
So has it been difficult for you to not have a, and I don't know, maybe, do you have a plan?
No, bro.
You've let go of that.
I've let go of a plan. It's difficult. Yes.
Yeah, I imagine.
I'm a Capricorn. I'm a grounded person. I'm like, so the whole nomadic lifestyle, I thought it was it. That's what I dreamed about for the longest time. And as soon as I got it, I realized, no, I was just trying to really escape
that part of yourself.
That part of myself again.
Yeah.
So I guess the plan really is to find somewhere to anchor down. That's kind of the goal for the road trip that I'm doing right now, is to just, stop here, suss out the energy, see what feels comfortable. Not necessarily find people that I want to spend time with, but more so find like a ground.
Well, and it seems like, that's not necessarily even what you're looking for. You're looking for the anchor within yourself, and then that will reflect into your outer world with you anchoring down, probably in a location eventually, right? But you probably just intuitively know that there's so much that you have to let go of before you can be happy being in one place. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, because I was pretty discontent.
Yeah, that's brave, man. Like, I applaud what you're doing, especially because of, I'm sure you go back and you talk to your family, and I'm assuming they're probably like, what the fuck are you doing? right? Like, what's your plan? You know, because then obviously they care about you. They're probably worried about you.
They get it. They get it.
Good.
They get where I'm at. They get why I'm leaving and what I'm doing, but they don't fully understand.
They're not meant to.
Like to them, I guess I'm exploring.
Yeah.
I'm cruising around. I'm having fun, but yeah, I think for the longest time I was definitely seeking something outside.
Yeah.
I was.
As we all do.
To some degree.
Right. As we all
like
do.
I'm still driving through the States in a freaking van.
Yeah.
There's seeking there. There's exploration.
So where are you headed to next? California?
Southern Utah, first of all.
Okay.
I'm going to go through there.
What are your thoughts on Utah so far?
Bro.
It's sick, right?
I love rocks.
Yeah. Utah's sick.
Utah's sick, yeah. It's got everything.
Yeah.
Like,
wait till you go down to Southern Utah, then you're really going to be saying that, because it's like a different planet down there.
Yeah. It's
so
crazy.
different than everything you've seen so far.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you've got like the snowy capped Rocky Mountains. You got desert.
Yeah.
You got lakes. You got forests. It's all here.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's here. Yeah. So Utah, and then I'm going to head into LA for probably a couple of weeks. Spend some time with a friend down there. He's building some cool stuff. Then maybe up into Northern California. Check out some of the redwoods.
Yeah.
Really want
amazing.
to experience those. Go through the.
Have you
forest
never
there.
been in Northern California?
No.
Northern California
I drove
is
through
beautiful.
it, right? Like
and
I drove,
Oregon, all up through Washington. Yeah. You're gonna drive along the coast, I'm assuming.
I'm going to do the coast.
Cool.
I'm undecided if I want to go through LA and then kind of dip into Arizona for a bit before going back up the coast.
Okay.
But right now the plan is to come down through Utah, over into LA, and then kind of head north.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, quite a trip.
Fuck yeah, bro. I love that. I love that like, cause like, and I see like so much of myself in you as you're going on this journey of like seeing the parts that would be difficult for me, but could also be super soul expanding. Mm-hmm. Of like having like, because I'm kind of the same way. Like, you know, I grew up in a pretty chaotic childhood with my dad being sick all the time, my mom being gone. You know, I used to come home. I didn't know what I was going to come home to a lot of the time. So for me, like having a plan helps me feel safe.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've really had to do some deep work on, like letting go of, you know? So, and I can see that in you. And I think I applaud what you're doing, bro. It's really fucking cool. Good for you. And I know that you'll find exactly what you're looking for, which is ultimately just going to be yourself. So I'll applaud you the whole way, and we'll be in contact because we've become fucking brothers now.
I think Utah is going to be a spot that I spend some time in.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hope you come back.
I really
next time you come back through, we'll do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's been fun. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
And yeah, dude.
Thank you for hosting.
You're a man that I look up to in a lot of ways.
Likewise.
So I'm super grateful that we found each other. I'm glad I have you in my life now.
Appreciate that.
So much love, and we'll do this again, bro.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, bro.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one.